Hello and welcome back to the Building Investors YouTube channel. I hope your day is going well. Mine is going well, except for the creepy little toys that I'm picking up in this nursery. Anyways, we're going to be doing some demo work on that wall that you see right in front of the camera there. And our goal will be to make a nice opening. That way we can access the next room and make this nursery into kind of a two-part nursery. There's going to be a nursery for the babies, which is where I'm standing, and then a toddler nursery across the way. Now this building used to be a pole barn, and so the framing in this wall will not be what you expect. It definitely was not what I expected, but I'll explain it when I get closer to what we're going to be doing, and you'll see it when we open up the wall what I mean by it's not what it's supposed to be. So anyways, we're getting everything in the nursery all pulled out of the way because we're going to need to make sure we keep this place as clean as possible since it's a nursery. Currently, I am using my razor knife to cut the caulking on top of the trim work. This will prevent any tear out of the paint or texture on the wall because we're going to try to keep as much of this paint work as possible because it is a lot of work to paint those trees and a lot of work in general just to paint and redo stuff. So we're going to make as little damage as possible by using my razor knife, cutting the caulking, moving the trim, and possibly even putting this trim back on the wall once we get the door installed. And so again, just cut along the top like this. Try not to do what I do here where I get off track. Doesn't really matter, you come back and fix it with sandpaper and caulking, but let me slow down my talking a little bit here. So, just using a nail puller. They have fancier tools that you can use for pulling this off, but a hammer and a nail puller is all you need. And thankfully, I don't know, the people who installed this used short nails, and so they don't go into the studs, so it was very easy to remove. Just same as that picture, just pick it off. I like to take my outlet covers off just to make sure the drywall around it comes off easy. And so it's just one little screw there. Remove it, and then set it to the side if you're going to use it again later. This one will be removed, so not a big deal. But now we're going to be measuring for the door opening. We're going to be having barn doors on this wall, and so they're going to slide to the left and to the right. So we need to cut a nice center line in the middle to where we know exactly where we're going to put the door, and I'll come back to that in a minute. But before you do any cutting, make sure you cover up anything that you don't want dust on. This is just regular painter's plastic you get at Home Depot. It's really thin, but it really attracts the dust and dirt. It's kind of like staticky almost. And so whenever you can get some help, recruit some help. This is my wife came in to visit me, so I'm like, well, grab that end and we'll get it all flipped around and put over the chairs, and that way we don't have any dust to clean up on the actual objects because it takes forever to clean stuff like this. So my goal is to just clean the floor and the end and then move everything back. So take your plastic and fold it out, and then you can tape it over top of the chairs and over top of the rug, and just make sure none of that dust is getting on the kids' toys because that would not be good for the kids. So anyways, this plastic is very unyieldy, but once you get one side, go ahead and take that and tape it to the wall, and then you can unfold the rest, and then it basically sticks to whatever you stick it to because it's so staticky. So I'm just going to tape the corner behind the chair and then the corner on the floor here, and then pull it tight on the other side. That way there's not a big chance of dust getting in, just little tips here and there. And then make sure you cover up anything else. This one's the shelf full of toys. So as you can see, I'm working on the wall right to the right there, deleting a door. So I'll be doing some more mudding on that here shortly on maybe episode 3 or 4 of this project. So once you get all taped, use any objects you can, like this piece of trim down below, and you can use it to hold down the bottom of the tarp instead of using a bunch of tape, or just put it down there and flop it up and it'll hold it for you. So anyways, moving on to cutting the wall. There's going to be some annoying sounds coming up, but I'm going to try to make it as minimal as possible, but show you as much as possible as well. So you can see the black line on the wall. That's the rough opening of the door. Where the trim's going to be, but we need it, since the barn doors are a different measurement than I planned, we're going to be moving that in 3.5 inches, which will be where the trim starts. And so right now I'm just marking that line, pardon me, marking that line. That way we can cut on the inside where we want it. We want it exact as much as possible on this wall, and on the other side of the wall, this is what the line looks like. Just matching those lines as close as possible, and then taking out my Dremel tool here. The reason I'm not using a sledgehammer or a reciprocating saw is because I don't want to cut into the wall too deeply and cut any electrical or anything that's going through the wall, and I don't know what's in this wall. So I want to be as careful as possible, so I'm using a very annoying sounding Dremel tool, which is just going to cut through the drywall. I can make a nice straight line with it. If you want to make it really clean, I would recommend using a vacuum as well, but it's not really that dusty, so just cut along your lines as nice and straight as possible, just right through. It's 5/8 drywall, should be anyways. I'll show you what it actually is. So I'll just cut along that line, and I've deleted the noise on this video here because it's just fast forwarded Dremel tool. That's like probably one of the most annoying noises you can ever listen to. So just imagine a mosquito in your ear the whole time you're listening to this. It's just terrible. So anyways, cut your way through the drywall, making sure to cut a nice straight line. You want to remove is instead of like the demolition on TV shows where you see people smashing stuff with sledgehammers and hammers and they're creating all these little tiny pieces. Don't do that. Just cut as big as pieces out as possible. And you'll see me using a hammer here to get a handhold. I found a stud right on top of it, so I decided to hammer a little bit lower, and then I can find a place to be able to grab onto. So just take your hammer and smash as little hole as possible, and then once you get your handhold in there, you can pull off as big a piece as possible, which is super handy. So the bigger pieces you have, sounds like I'm harping here, I am, just big pieces, take big pieces, throw it in the dumpster, save yourself a ton of work. So obviously these are handful pieces, but you can always try better, do better. So there we go, there's a big piece. So we're gonna get all these pieces off of this side. You can see there's insulation on the inside there. You can do the same on the other side. And basically we just want to avoid cutting any electrical and making as little dust as possible and not getting injured in the process. So that's pretty much the goal of demo, is to do as neat as possible and not worry about damaging stuff. So anyway, as you can see, this wall is framed like a pole barn because it used to be a pole barn, obviously. It used to be a hay barn. But then the framing up here on the top of the wall is not the same. There used to be a window right here, which is surprising. It's like, oh, okay, what's this 2x4 doing here? But it ended up working out perfect because it was in the center of the wall, so when I take out the framing later, it's not a problem because it's exactly where the door is going to go, so it's great. And it's not a load-bearing wall because the trusses are supported all the way across. Oh, there's that beautiful noise. I'll let you hear just for a little bit and then I'll turn it off. So anyways, that's the Dremel tool hyped up on steroids there. But just continue taking those pieces off and take out all the insulation and try your best to not breathe this stuff because this is fiberglass. It gets in your lungs. It's just terrible. It gets on your skin. It's terrible. So you'll see me later on putting on a mask. I would highly recommend that anytime you are doing demo. Even before this point would be great. But looking inside the wall, you can see what I'm talking about. It's just it's chaos in there. There's the original framing. There's a couple layers of drywall. There's furring strips on the right side there. It's a mess. So it ended up with like a 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch and some mud on top. So it's a lot. So we're gonna have to make that look pretty somehow. So we're gonna do that by taking out all of this stuff. So on the other side of the wall, we're just gonna do the same thing. Move out anything we don't want dusty. Cut along the line, and then tear it out. The problem with remodels is that all the walls aren't the same measurements, and so the wall in the nursery currently is, if you're measuring from the right wall, I guess, in the video, and then from the left wall to the right to the line on this side, that probably doesn't make any sense. The walls aren't the same thicknesses, so these lines aren't going to match up, which is not a problem because we're going to be cutting a bigger hole in a little bit. But we did our best, and so I guess technically you could poke through the wall and then measure over from that hole you made, but overall, just don't trust the walls in a remodel to be the same on both sides, but we'll get it done. So anyways, pull out all the insulation. Got a mask on this time because I've been doing a lot more of it, and then long sleeves also help, if you can wear long sleeves, because that fiberglass gets in your skin and just itches like crazy, and then you go to put a jacket on later in the day and it's just like, ugh, it's nasty. So anyways, got a dumpster rented here, so we're going to throw all of the garbage in, including some of the church's trash, just to clean up the place a bit. So I'll get all the insulation in there first, and then throw all the heavy stuff on top of it so you don't have to worry about it blowing away. Do a little sweep up, that way you're not tracking and scratching the floor as much as possible. I mean, you can put painter's tarps down, but if you're just going to be in a short time like I was, just sweeping it up every once in a while is good to do. So anyways, take your Sawzall, cut through the boards, make sure you're not cutting any electrical, because underneath that bottom one is a couple runs of electrical, and if you weren't watching, you would have cut right through it, which would not be good, which I was close to doing it, but I looked before I cut, so thankfully. Anyways, this is what it looks like when it's finished. We're going to be doing the framing in the next video, but that's the hole, and again, it's not a load-bearing wall, so there's nothing supported there. which is completely fine. I'll explain that more in the framing process, but got it all cut back, and then we'll add our 2x6s and then some furring strips, and then our 5/8 drywall on this side, and then we'll be doing some mudding and finishing touches on the last part of the video. But bada bing bada boom, looking good. So I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you ask any questions you have about this process. I know it's very complicated looking, but it's actually very simple. So anyways, looks good, doesn't it? Well, not quite yet, but it will. So anyways, thank you again for watching. Hope you enjoyed. We'll catch you on the next one. Have a good day. God bless.